Hi, this is my response to Matt Nash's video about Nightcrawler. Well, let me just start with this point. One, Matt Fraction did not kill Nightcrawler. Actually, Chris Yost did, and when I brought my issue to Matt Fraction to be signed, I asked him to write, "I'm sorry," over Nightcrawler's dead body. And he looked up at me and he said, "Another one?" And Brian Michael Bendis laughed and he said, "Just do it." And Matt Fraction said, "No, I'm done with this." And he looked at me and he said, "Chris Yost is the one who killed him, not me. I had nothing to do with it. I love Nightcrawler." And then he took my silver marker and he wrote over his body, "Blame Yost." So, I know for a fact that it was Chris Yost. Second, Nightcrawler's fan base is rather large. It's not a Summers fan base, and it's not a Wolverine fan base, but it's still pretty big. It was ranked in 2006 as like the 5th largest X-Men fan base, I think, under like Iceman. And number 1 being, believe it or not, Scott Summers has the number 1 fan base, and then number 2 is Wolverine at the time. But Nightcrawler's is fairly large, and it's gone down because the character has gone down. You're right, the character was fucking annoying for the last 5 to 10 years. Absolutely ridiculous. Religious to a fault. Instead of making a character that was faithful and optimistic, they made a character who was a drag and who tried to convert people too much. It was a waste of time. I am glad that they killed Kurt Wagner. I'm sorry I have to say that because he was my favorite character, but it got to a point where the best thing that could have ever happened to him was his death. So they replaced him with a superior version created for the Age of Apocalypse in the mid-90s, which was an alternate reality. He is the same as Kurt Wagner. He was just raised under different circumstances, making him Kurt Darkholm instead of Wagner. Darkholm is his mother Mystique's maiden name, so that is why he now has it. So Kurt Darkholm has come into our reality, and he now resides in our comic books as the main Nightcrawler character, at least for now. He's a little cruder, he's a little more violent, he doesn't, say no to killing people, which is always interesting to see a character like that, because he's grown up in a war-torn world, think Terminator kind of future, and, he's seen so much death, and he doesn't really know how to deal with it except to respond with death, with killing, but he is forgiving, and he is sort of chivalrous the way Kurt Wagner always was. He's definitely down for the ladies, and he is at his best moments when Rick Remender writes him. He is almost Errol Flynn-like, the way Dave Cockrum originally intended Kurt Wagner to be. You also find that Kurt Darkholm is a little edgier, not just darker, but he genuinely has a bit of a kick to what he has to say. Instead of being religious and optimistic, he is very against the idea of faith. He believes that there is no God, or if there is a God, it must have abandoned them. But he does believe that there is reason to be hope. He just kind of has a dark spit to his voice when he talks about it. I'll bring out some issues on some other video I make later, should I make another one. I'll give you guys some examples, because this will not be the last time I talk about Nightcrawler. And as for the forum, the members that Matt was talking about were about 4 or 5 hardcore older ladies who cling to the Nightcrawler from the late 80s from Excalibur, or even predating that to Dave Cockrum's 1960s version. And these are the chicks who literally flick their bean to the idea of Nightcrawler being a priest, which is really stupid to me, because once your character goes that religious, the character's not fun anymore, unless you're making the book about a dark priest who does interesting stuff. It isn't marketable. It's not a marketable book. Hellboy isn't even a priest, and it's a book basically about religion and demons. Kevin Smith tried to make Batman Catholic, and that bombed. He tried to make Daredevil Catholic, and it kind of worked, and then it bombed. You can't make characters that religious, especially that Catholic, because it just bombs. It doesn't work anymore. After a certain point, certain writers can't write that. They don't know enough about Catholicism. They don't know enough about Christian rites and rituals, and they don't care enough about those things, because no one really does care about them who's reading comic books, except for the old farts. And guess what? They're not collecting comic books anymore. They're only filling in their old issues. They're not giving the company any more money, so why should the company be pandering to them? It's ridiculous. There's no reason for them to do so. They're interested in the fans like me who are buying new comics, and they're going to try and make fans like me happy. Now, why am I wearing a hood in this video? Besides the fact that it's really rude and it's hiding kind of my face because I've had a lot of salt today. The main reason is because it's a memorial of Trayvon Martin, another video Matt Nash made about. While I agree with my friend that it is important to remove bias, I think the fact of the matter is, if Zimmerman does have a record of violence, not necessarily a criminal one, but if there is actual evidence that he has done violent things in ways that are uncalled for, if he has snapped for any reason, all of these reasons are going to be used against him by the prosecution in court, and I'm guaranteeing you right now, you're going to see this man basically hung in front of us on TV for everything he's ever done. He's not going to be put on trial for the killing of Martin. He's going to be put on trial for every choice he's made in life before that. That's the only reason I feel bad for Zimmerman. I do not feel bad for him. If he has to go to court for this, he should go to court for this. It is wrong and it is messed up. You can try and say racism is not involved all you want. If he really did say under his breath, "Coon," I'm sorry. I'm done. I have no forgiveness. But I do have forgiveness towards Matt. Don't worry, Matt. I don't take it too personally. I know that you like the Bruto oof heroes, and I know that Cable and, Red Hulk will rock you to sleep at night as they jam it up between your cheeks.